Hello and welcome to the Post-Up Show. I'm Cyrus Rogers, that's Kaunda Chama. We've got a very, very special guest with us today, Akin Omotoso, a brother, big brother, man about town, film director, basketball aficionado. What are the titles? Future James Bond, would be present to Idris Elba, all of these things. Thanks for coming on the show, Akin.
Thank you for having me. Future James Bond's father, maybe.
That could be a thing. Kaunda, I would be remiss if I don't also say, good to have you on the show as always, because you are that brother. You are the Robin to my Batman.
Let's just say I am the Superman to that guy who takes pictures.
Okay, so Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen.
If there's going to be one, it's like, not even another superhero. I'm the guy taking pictures of the superhero. Okay, I don't even know where to go with that. Akin, thanks so much for being on the show, man. Look,
thanks for having me.
For those people, obviously we know you. You're a friend and you're actually fam to this Post-Up Zone, Post-Up podcast, Post-Up show. We're in part of this basketball fraternity. And when you love basketball, especially in Africa and especially in South Africa, you're gonna know everybody else who's in love with basketball. So for those people who might not necessarily know, you're also obviously a very famous film director. Here's some of your body of work, as they say. From Via, Tell Me Sweet Something, the Ghost and the House of Truth. That's just a snapshot of some of the work you've done. I'm a bit of a fanboy, so it's always good to have you on when you're like, hey, Akin's on. Oh, you mean that famous director? Yeah, him. So Akin, let's go into what you're working on.
Or as you guys would say, the guy with the suspect jump shot.
Look, when you
we do want to go there.
That famous clang off the rim. I mean, what a way to announce yourself into the game, You're working on something really special at the moment, and that's the Giannis movie. You've been putting that together, you're directing that. Tell us about the process of how you got involved with that, and also what the experience has been like working on that project.
Absolutely. As an NBA fan, and as you guys know, we're all fanatic about the game, but also for me, fanatic about the NBA and fanatic about the African story within the NBA. And so when I first heard of Giannis' story, I remember thinking to myself, man, if I ever made a basketball film, that's the guy's story I'd love to tell. Just an incredible story of perseverance, family, and love, and just, so that was back then. So I didn't, it's not like I just put it out into the universe, and then fast forward, I think it's 2019. 2019, I get off the plane in Los Angeles and I buy the Sports Illustrated magazine, and Giannis is on the cover. And inside, they talk about Disney's making a film about his life. So I kept that magazine, and I told my agent, I said, look, please, whatever you do, get me in the room. I don't know if I'll get the job, but I would really love the opportunity to tell them how I would tell the story if I was given that opportunity. And so I kept that magazine by my bedside for a year. Still by my bedside, but I kept it for a year. Every morning I would wake up, I look at the magazine. Before I go to sleep, I look at the magazine. It was there the night, eventually my agent called me, and it's coming up to a year. It's coming up to a year that my agent called me at like 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock to one night. And he said, okay, they've sent us the script for you to read so that you can come and pitch. He sent me the script at about 10:15. I finished at about midnight. And I emailed him back as like, yo, get me in the room. And so it became a process. It took about 7 weeks of pitching to Disney how I would tell the story. And after the 7-week sort of pitch, I got the job. And my life it's just been an amazing opportunity. They've been great. Just an amazing opportunity. And my love for that story and that family and everything they've accomplished. The script is beautiful. The whole team. It's just been an amazing experience. And then to be in Greece the last 6 months making the film, to go to the places where he started, in Sepolia, to go to the basketball court where he started to play the first time, to be at the Phil Atleticos club where he started to, where he played, and just walk those streets, and be in the place that raised him while we're making this story parallel to him charting history at the same time. You couldn't make it up. You know, you couldn't make it up.
You couldn't. That's why we're all out here with our Bucks gear. These, you know, we're like ripping, like we're, you know what I mean? There you go. That's the stuff right there. Kaunda's is in the wash. He told me already.
Mine's in the wash. Mine's in the wash.
Good man. Good man.
I'll hand over to Kaunda, but I do want to say something very quickly, and that's you said something really important there about telling the African story, which is something that I think Kaunda often talks about when we're just, you know, having conversations. So Kaunda, obviously you want to ask Akin something too.
Yes, actually, it relates to what you just said, because I'm sure, Akin, you've probably forgotten this, but the first time I met you was at the premiere of God is African, another one of the great movies that you directed about the story of Ken Sawariwa. And we had a chat that night after the show. We were in VIP. You see how I dropped that? Yeah. We were in VIP.
Cyrus, he was in VIP. I don't know if I was in VIP. I might have been outside.
Well, wherever we were, you and I had a chat, because, you know, that's 2003 and a lot has happened since then about the importance of Africans telling African stories. And I remember we went deep and we spoke about how more movies like that and you know, directors such as yourself should take up the mantle or be given the opportunity to tell the African story. And I think, to me, when I see you doing this, it comes full circle from that discussion to see you telling a great African story. I mean, or like you said, of perseverance, of just determination, of success. I mean, from the time you started to what has happened now, which we'll get into a little bit later, that story is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Absolutely, and you know, it's good. It's what you're saying is important, because also I think we're coming into a time when you can see there's a call for authentic voices telling the stories. So let the people who understand the story, give them the opportunity to tell the story. Not that anyone else can't tell the story, but let's look at it from let's look at it from within. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's one of the things I credit Disney for, and just for them backing the story, backing my vision of the story, and working in collaboration, not just with them, but obviously Giannis is an executive producer on the film, and just, you know, being clear to him and his family that I take the responsibility very seriously of telling your story. It's something that I take very seriously, and that trust that they afforded us, myself and the team, just really, really, really crucial. So, you know, you're right. It's important, and we see what's happening in the basketball space with the NBA Africa, with the BAL. So everything just, it was only a matter of time, and now the time is now.
I mean, it's incredible, Akin, because, you know, you hit on so many notes here, and there's so many directions I want to take this conversation. But what's really interesting is that let's look at African players in the NBA. And, you know, there are so many who are Team Niger. When you look at the Nigeria basketball team that is at the Olympics now, there's a lot of first and some second generation Nigerians who are like, look, I have to represent where we're from, you know, and that pride comes through consistently. And Giannis has always spoken about the fact that, yes, he is Greek, and that should never, ever be dismissed or discounted, but he's also Nigerian. And he talks about how it was Greece outside, but it was Nigeria inside. Like when his parents were there,
exactly.
Him and his brothers, they were eating all the food from back home. They were being raised that way. So I guess, you know, it's important to try and have an understanding of that, and guess that's where bringing you in comes into play, because you understand not just the African side of it, but also the Nigerian side of it as well, because, you know, that's part of your lineage too.
Actually, and also the idea of growing up, coming to South Africa, making South Africa home from the time I was 17. So this idea of your inherited country, you know what I mean? The country, I've spent most of my life in South Africa. I've spent 30 years here. So I grew up here, you know? So that kind of idea. But also, I think just being obsessed with the stories. And if we think about the stories, let's take Hakeem Olajuwon's story. Yeah. Hakeem gets on and I hope I tell the story right. You know, Hakeem gets on a plane and lands in New York. St. John's University or one of these, they're not there to pick him up. He goes outside and it's cold. He comes back inside. He sees a porter who happens to be Nigerian, and he says, "Yo, look at these 3 tickets here that I've got. Which one has temperature that's close to home?" And the guy goes, "Houston." The guy goes, "Houston." Hakeem gets on a plane and flies to Houston. The rest is history. Like, these stories are amazing. You know what I mean? Serge Ibaka's story, or even Joel Embiid's story, or even Jonathan, who was drafted the other night, or Dikembe Mutombo's story. So as a storyteller, I've always been interested in the story of the game and the stories of the players, and especially the African players. So Giannis's story is just such an amazing one. And so when you come to it, I'm really coming to it. Like I said to someone, the fact that they won the championship is great. And whether I was making the film or not, I'll be equally as happy, because anytime any of the players from our continent are successful, we know what that means to everyone else, to the children, to the people looking up, and so on. So I'm obsessed with these stories, and his intersects basketball and life in such a profound way that it's not just about the game, it's about life itself. And you could see during the playoffs a lot of the wisdom he was dropping, being in the moments, being in the present. And throughout, I'll tell you 3 stories about when we were shooting and the Bucks playing. Sorry, so the one was, I remember the morning they beat, because it's morning for us. I remember the morning they beat the Brooklyn Nets. And that morning I was watching the game, like I watched all the games, like we do, because a lot of the crew members would say, "Do you wake up to watch the game?" I said, "I've been waking up to watch the game. We've been watching these games since 1999. We've been watching these games. Our alarm clock is set to 3 o'clock again, so after 4 o'clock in Athens. And so the game finished about 6 o'clock in the morning. And Disney had given us his European, when he plays for Greece, the jersey, as a statue gift for when we started filming. I put on my jersey and I went to the beach, rocking my jersey like, did you all watch that game? And then you think, and the thing about Greece is that everyone wears for the most part, you walk down the street, you see people with 34 and all this stuff. So that was the one morning I remember, like, they finished it. My celebration was on the beach, 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and the beach is packed because it's summer. And wearing my Antetokounmpo, like I was the one that scored all those points. But the second one was, that is it, right? But the second one was Game 5 against Phoenix in the finals. So usually we all were watching the games like in our rooms or whatever on our devices, and then texting during the game. But that game we decided, like, why don't we all just watch it together? And at the hotel there's the boardroom, so we have the boardroom, and we could watch. We hooked up the screen and we're watching the game. Now it's come down to the last couple of seconds, and Drew Holiday has just stolen the ball from Devin Booker and throws the thing, the alley-oop. All of us are shouting. Now bear in mind, it's probably like 5:45 in the morning or whatever it is. And one of the people staying at the hotel, she's like, she opens the door and she's furious. She's like, "Do you know what time it is?" And I nearly said, "Game time." So I didn't. I didn't. So I just said, we were all like, "Oh, sorry, we're watching." And then we're like, "Why are you not watching the game?" And so that was the level at which we were all, those of us who were basketball fanatics on the film, we were like watching the game. And then obviously the final game when he won with the 50 points, just watching that game and just feeling, I used to say this to everyone every day on the set. I said, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're fortunate to have work. We're fortunate to be telling such an incredible story at the same time as this young man is making his mark on the world in ways in which those who believed in him knew he would. And what a special time. So I just wanted to share those with you quickly.
Whoa, dropping the knowledge, Akin. Geesh. I've got goosebumps. I hope that line is in the film somewhere. In
the director's cut. We're going to see it in the director's cut.
Commentary
Literally.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I was telling him.
Now, Akin, obviously, you've been very close. You've stayed very close to the NBA in Africa since they landed. I mean, I remember you did a documentary about the NBA coming to the continent, a brief docu. You've also been involved in working on a documentary about the BAL, and I know for a fact you were here. You were in Johannesburg when the first NBA Africa game was played. Now, one thing, Cyrus, in 2015, yes, one thing Cyrus and I talk about is how Cyrus literally, he saw potential in that young man. If you remember, he was dunking over grown men. He was the older version of Giannis, the slightly scrawnier version of Giannis. At that time, obviously he came here with Thanasis and the parents. Did you identify something in Giannis at that time? Because to be honest, I just saw him as this high-flying dunker. But Cyrus was talking about him from that day as if he was going to become this champion, which he did.
Yeah, man. I'm with Cyrus because how could you not? And I know, it's funny because another friend of mine recently was like, because that 2015, I said to this friend of mine, I said, like, watch this kid. This kid is going to be great. And he was similar to, he was on your tip counter there, not sure. And when they won the championship, this friend of mine said, you were right. I feel like, how could you? Like, I don't know, Cyrus, you know what I mean? Like, you could just see it. You could just see it. And he played so well in that game that you just knew it was a matter of time.
Yeah, it's the weirdness for me in all of this is that sometimes you see the ability, which is the thing that stands somebody out. And this is a game we mustn't forget. This is a game that had Chris Paul and Luol Deng in it, amongst a host of other players. But Giannis, and he saw this when he played in the NBA All-Star game for the first time. He does not know how to play hard. So whether it be in these sort of exhibition games or All-Star games, this guy gives it 120%. And as he's grown, because I was lucky enough to travel in the transport with him and his folks and his brother the day of that game, because Thanasis was playing in the Basketball Borders All-Star game. And I'd interviewed Giannis on the court like the day before. At that point, when you spoke to him, even as a youngster, you could see there was a determination about him that you didn't necessarily pick up on any of the other NBA players. And maybe that was because he was young and first getting into the league. But I think that's always been what he's attached himself to, was this sense of wonder about how much better can he get. Now, if you look at his game now, and Akin, I know you've been watching him a lot, don't you feel as if he still plays as if he's a kid who's just arrived in the NBA? He's just able to do a lot more now.
Well, I think if you looked into his interview, when he was talking about working with Kobe Bryant, he spoke about what Kobe said to him in terms of be a kid, be curious, be always wanting more. And that's what I've enjoyed about him. It's just this idea of like, I'm taking it step by step, I'm living in the moment, and I'm going to keep on pushing till I get to the places that I want to get to. And I think that that's what you recognize. And that's why even then, even like when you watch him in that, the culmination of all of that is 50 points, 17 of 19 from the free throw line. Nobody on that floor could stop him. They could not stop him.
Not
and when
even
you
himself.
They just couldn't stop him. And this is after 2 MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, multiple everything.
Yeah.
And it all comes together in this beautiful game to win the championship. I think he's definitely the blueprint of hard work and determination and being in the moment. That's what I really appreciate, the being in the moment.
Yeah, being in the moment.
Now, speaking of being in the moment, Akin, when you walked the streets of Greece, and obviously for some of us who know his story quite a bit or a little bit more than others, we don't want to give away too much of what might wind up, on that screen. But he had his fair share of trials and tribulations. I mean, I remember when he speaks about his past. He speaks about it with fondness and love, but he also points out that there were the struggles, at home, struggles, on the streets, and that But how did you feel walking those same streets? Was there a certain Giannis energy you could feel in there, or did you maybe, you know, adorn his presence or something, you know, just to get that authentic Giannis feel when you worked on the project?
Well, what was important, and it's good, I like what you're saying. What was important to me was how do you take the spirit of, you know? So when the first thing we did, the DP and I, Cabello Tate, amazing DP. When we got out of quarantine, when we got to Athens, the first place we went to was that court in Sepolia where he started playing. So I was like, that's the first place I want to go to, where it all started. And then I want to go to the next place, which is the Phil Atletico's court, because that's where a lot of the pictures you see of him as a young man were taken, right?
Yeah.
And then I wanted to walk the streets of Sepolia and all these places. Just walking the streets. So my first couple of weeks in Greece, once we were out of quarantine, was to walk the same road that they would have walked. Not that I know that he walked here, but the idea that if you lived in this area, I want to see the things. I want to really try and osmose like that, you know. So it was a way into the story. It was a way into trying to get into what happened. And then obviously the beautiful thing about this project is that, like I said, he's an executive producer. So having access to speak to him and what he brought to the team and what he brought to the story was also helpful. Not just him, his family. So, you know, we were really able to get the authentic story. And then our job as filmmakers is to translate that into the movie, that it makes sense, that it feels and it resonates as their experience, and to share to everybody what the experience was like growing up in Greece.
I mean, authenticity, right? That's basically it. You want to. It almost is like a weird play on Sting's Englishman in New York, because he's like Nigerian in Greece,
in Athens.
but
in Athens,
exactly in Athens. So one of the things, and I think maybe this will be the last Giannis-related question before we move on to a couple other topics, is that he's the Greek freak, and they call him that because he is a freak of nature. His length, his athleticism. How the heck do you cast that? Because you're not just looking for like somebody who could potentially look like a basketball player, but they also have to have the length and the height and all of those things. So that must have been quite a pressurized thing as well. Because can you imagine, it's like, okay, we need somebody who looks like Giannis that isn't Giannis, that also acts, but can convey some of these things. That must have been pretty tough.
Yeah, you know, it was part for me. It was exciting. That was the challenge. So it was very exciting. And Giannis himself, you know, he sent out a tweet. So we did an open call. So he sent out a tweet saying, "Hey, we're looking for unknowns, fresh faces to play me and members of my family." So he sent out that tweet.
Put myself
and,
forward. But, you know, the grace in the beard might have been
might have been the challenge. But you know, and we saw a number of contestants, you know, and just it was so touching to see people from all over the world, from the continent, from everywhere, sending in their tapes to be Giannis. And we were so fortunate to get Uche, who plays Giannis in the movie. And Uche is just wonderful. And for me as a basketball player, it was really important that we cast someone who could play basketball, and could act and have the emotional intelligence and what we needed from this character. And Uche just was just amazing. And just it's his first film, and I can't say enough about that young man in terms of his preparation, how he entered the zone to become and embody Giannis. It was just beautiful for me as a filmmaker to watch from when we cast him to the shoot, and just watching him embody this man who, like I said, at the same time was also going through really historic moments. So it took a couple of months, but we emerged with the best. And Uche, I can't wait for people to see Uche's performance and how he embodies Giannis in the film.
Now, I'm just like I can't wait. The problem is the wanting to get into a time machine to watch the movie and then be like, okay, right, we watch the movie. But then once you've watched it, you'd be like, okay, I can't watch that with new eyes all over again. So I'm really excited about it. It's going to be good.
No, for sure.
I know we wanted to talk about the BAL because I know you touched on it. And I think you also had another question with regards to projects around the Basketball Africa League as well.
No, basically, I wanted to find out from you, Akin. Obviously, I know you're a basketball fan. I mean, you're from our generation. So, first of all, I'm going to assume you're a Bulls fan.
Michael Jordan.
I knew it. So you've been watching basketball for a long time. You watched around the time that the likes of Akeem Olajuwon came on the scene. Everybody from Luol Deng to the current crop. We've seen them come into the league. How did it feel? I mean, for you as a fan to see the NBA set up a sanctioned league on the continent, and for you to be involved insofar as even making a documentary about it.
Yeah, man, it was amazing because, as you both know, the journey of basketball for us, especially when you love something, you can't wait for. I remember the days when the only basketball you could watch was This Week in the NBA that CNN used to do that was like from 12 midnight to 12:30 on a Sunday. That was the only basketball, they show you the little clips and so on. So, and we know about all our players and everything and everybody. So to see Amadou's vision and what he's done and how it has grown was just amazing. So I wish obviously I couldn't be there to watch those games because I was making the movie. But I really wanted to be there. My team didn't do very well, Rivers Hoopers, but we'll come back. We'll be back. But
you'll be back.
We'll be back. But to your point again, and being involved with this documentary, which is directed by Teboko Malope, which is covering the first season of the BAL, it's history in the making, And again, as a story, what a story. A story of all these teams, the different cultures coming into play, the kaleidoscope of Africa, and the fact that, like I always say, basketball is life, which is your tag on this as well. But also, it's an opportunity for people to understand the different facets of the continent, the different languages and cultures, the different music, the different approaches to the game, and just the story. And so that really excited me. And when the opportunity presented itself to be part of the documentary team, I jumped at it. As a fan, I was there. And as a filmmaker, again, it's like both things. It's more than basketball. You're not just talking about the teams, but you're talking about the journey of these teams. You're talking about, people who have waited for this moment their entire lives, or new youngsters seeing it as an opportunity to go somewhere. So I was so excited and so happy for everyone involved. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great thing though, Akin. And it's amazing where sometimes your passion for a sport or a thing can put you in a space, but you don't realize that the other thing that is also your job can then meld together. And, I mean, that must have been a really amazing thing for you. And also potentially for J. Cole, who, got to live out his hoop dreams. And after his performance, there's really hope for all of us. So I do think though...
More shade from the House of Cyrus.
So bad.
We need to do a separate podcast, House of Cyrus. And this week in House of Cyrus, we're looking at other shade.
A rickety building, but the other thing, and look, I mean, I've thrown a lot of shade, though I do think though it was an incredible experience to see him be part of something that was also a great thing for the continent, because we got to see basketball get its spot in the sunshine globally, not just a league for Africans that will be seen by Africans alone. It was a league based in the African continent for everybody else to also enjoy. And when we saw I mean, it was when Zamalek and Monastir are facing off in the final, you're watching great basketball, not just some guys who started playing.
No, absolutely.
So I think, so do you think that this is that perhaps we should see more marketing around. Maybe we should see the likes of Monastir, Zamalek, and Rivers Hoopers jerseys everywhere, proliferating the continent. Do you feel that's the kind of thing we should be seeing more?
Absolutely, and I think that you will see it more because, again, this was held, similar to the bubble. It's all these things that we needed to get the first season out, so we got the first season out. The next season is the key one, right? So season 2, what's season 2 looking like? And the more we've seen it, like from those exhibition games you were speaking about, 2015 All Africa game, 2016, so I look forward to more basketball. And for me, what's always important is that once people can see it, so it's like, okay, I have something to aim for. So these kids, not the three of us on this call, but
no.
But when they set up the BAL Veterans League, then we can go. But
that's the one.
But these kids growing up, they can go. That's an opportunity for me. That's an opportunity for my family, and there's also room for new superstars there, and that's what's exciting about it. And I think this first season was great. I think this next season is going to even be more and more, and it just keep on growing. And then then it's like as we all feel how dope it is. You can already see, Charles Bassey from the Basketball Without Borders. There's so many things that have happened in isolation, and now suddenly there's this league that hopefully brings it together in a way that makes sense. So I'm there, and this time around I want to be at the games to watch.
Don't we all? And we also want to see a South African team or Southern African team at the very least.
At the very least, Southern African team.
Oh, look, shame. I mean, it's like we're forgetting that there was a Mozambican team involved, but and Angolans were involved. So but I think it's about the growth of the game, and it's also about the professionalism of it, and I think that's one of the key things here. Kaunda, I'm going to give you the final question of the evening, and make it a good one.
It's going to be a great one. As a basketball fan, and it's a basketball show. I just wanted to find out your impressions of the season that just ended, the NBA season. I mean, it started with all the fanfare, and if you asked me at the beginning of the season, which Cyrus did, I said it was going to be a Brooklyn Nets, Los Angeles Lakers final. I was saying Lakers in 7. And then what happened, right? LeBron couldn't see the second round of the playoffs. Kevin Durant was wearing size 28 shoes that stepped on a line. Just things were happening. The beard was playing on one leg. Kyrie broke himself. It was just interesting. But what is your impression? Because I know
Giannis broke himself and put himself back together.
Yes, this was like the $6 million man. He broke himself and put himself back together again. But what are your impressions? Obviously, the season has come to an end. We're looking forward to a new season. Starting soon. And I think you can maybe even add on what you've seen in the free agency week. but your impressions first on the season that just ended.
Yeah, I think it was an amazing season because also coming out of the bubble. A lot of the questions about the safety, what would it mean in terms of, people going in and out of the COVID protocol, how would that affect games, the play-in tournament, which I absolutely loved, and we'll keep that. I think that, so again, what's the story of the season? The way I was looking at it was, here's the season, again, that's trying to do something in the middle of a pandemic. They're negotiating, navigating, and can they pull it off, And so to watch the NBA do that, and at the same time launching the BAL. So, you know what I mean? So for me, those things were working. And then, because we were making the film, I immediately, I felt like, it's like when you speak in the universe, I said, the Bucks are going to win. Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me while we're making this movie. They're going to win. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter when they were down 2-0 or whatever it was. I was like, they're going to win. And that was my mantra the whole time. Every time I'm saying, like, Bucks are gonna win. Bucks are gonna win. If we lose, I remember there was one of the guys that, as you meet them, they're like, we lost last night. I'm like, we'll be fine. Don't worry, we'll be fine. But I'm really impressed with the NBA and happy that they were able to navigate that and look forward to this coming season. Talk about your let's reload Talk about your reload.
Exactly. That's it. And I think it's you got to talk about free agency though, because the Bucks won it. It's been incredible. We saw PJ Tucker drink the champagne. Now he's going to drink the Kool-Aid in Miami. So what do you think about what's happened in free agency?
No, I think it's exciting. It's always exciting when, these pieces move. Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, I affectionately call them the Nigerian team, our second team, because, and I think that's the Nigerian team. So that's an interesting, what they're doing there. I think that the what the Bulls are doing, like that's also like DeMar DeRozan there is like, because everybody expected him to, well, at least that was the talk, that he would end up in Los Angeles. Carmelo going to the Lakers. I think it's going to be fascinating. I'm still, I know you are. I still say whoever comes out of the West, Bucks in 6, repeat. You heard it here first.
I don't know though, but I love it. It will be incredible. I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. Kaunda, thank you so much for doing.
Before we wrap it up, I don't want people saying I'm a Giannis hater and I didn't bring any Giannis stuff to the show. So I just want to bring these up real quick. They say coming to America on them. The freak ones. I couldn't raise my foot during the intro, so I thought,
your knees.
Well done.
Yes,
well done.
So I'm sure during the show, you noticed me grimacing. I was actually taking them off.
I love it. That's great.
Voltaren gel for those joints.
And also to you guys, just as my brothers and friends, like, congratulations on the show. Keep on doing what you're doing, spreading the word about basketball. I can't wait till we're all together again on the court, shooting hoops, talking trash. So I salute you and the work you're doing as well. It's all part and parcel of the greater story we're all doing, documenting the game for those who love it and those who are coming after it.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, man. And to all of you, make sure you keep watching the Post Up Show. From all of us, this is Ball, and it's all live. Thank you.